Hello, welcome again to our podcast. Back with me, Bram. Hope you guys in all good condition. So today we are going to review a movie again named Hugo. This film actually the adaptation of the novel The Inventions of Hugo Cabret by Biran Selznick in 2007. This movie released in 2011 and produced by Johnny Depp, Timothy Haddington, Graham King, Martin Scorsese, and John Logan as a writer. This film tells about the adventure of Hugo Cabret to find a hidden message from his father through drawing from a machine called Autotome. Besides that, these films also tell us about the history of film and introduce us to a famous person named George Méliès, an amazing filmmaker that created the first special effect for film production. The conflict of this film starts when Hugo Cabret caught stealing a part of a mechanic component in a toy store that runs by Papa George. For the punishment, Papa George takes Hugo's notes and will not return it forever. After that, Hugo meets Isabel, Papa George's daughter. Isabel promised that she will help him to get his note back. However, Hugo feels confused because Papa George hides something about the notes and Hugo wants to find out what is the connection between the Autotome's drawing and Papa George. At last, Hugo knows that the drawing is one of the Papa George's most famous films, Voyage to the Moon. Most of the setting in this film is in the train station because Hugo Cabret lives in a train station. This film is easy to understand and recommended for those who want to watch a fantasy movie. The actors and actresses also play a good role with their own personality, especially my favorite character, Sacha Baron Cohen as an Inspector Gustav. His acting is great as a man who has a firm personality to protect the train station, and as a man who's shy to confess his feeling to women at once. Besides that, Christopher Lee, who usually plays the villain in many of his films, acts really great in this film, with his cold personality but never leaves his sharp gaze. However, he should be given more screen time on this film. The conflict between protagonist and antagonist bring us to feel the excitement and tension at once, to feel of desperate to know something secret about the Autotome's drawing. However, the Hugo character seems like to has a small portion of contribution, although in the end of the film, he brings the memory of Papa George in film. The dialogue in this film is not really good though, but the addition of the poem inside the conversations makes it alive. The best thing of this movie is the cinematography. From the beginning of the story, the visual and camera movement is just impressive. Especially the scene when Hugo is running from Isabel in the middle of the crowds who just come out from the train. Although this film does not have many editing aspects, but with a smooth camera movement, this film is overall good. The sound effect and the music also adds some the feel of old vintage in the early 1930s. Besides that, one thing that is interesting to me is the costumes. The costume in the early 1930s is very great and cool because all the people there used a formal clothing, even though it is snowing at the time. But it is always great to see how the costumes in the 90s. Finally, this film is recommended to you who want to know the development and the history of filmmaking. From my opinion, this film is full of the family-friendly aspect. Start from the relation between dad and son. Even though Hugo's dad dies in the beginning of the story, but the dad's love never disappears. Besides that, friend relationship between Hugo and Isabel shows that a true friend never leaves when her friend is in a bad condition or has a problem. Overall, for me, the rating of this film is 7 per 10. And this film is worth watch with your family. And maybe you can put it to your watch list later. And that's all for today's movie review episode. Thanks for listening and see you in the next episodes.